r/askreddit. What is unethical as fuck, but is extremely common practice in the business world? Hiding fees until the service is provided. I was in a car accident that required an ambulance ride, and I was charged double for it. Apparently the two ambulance companies in my area are in cahoots, so rather than share the business in my area 50/50, they apparently devised a way to split it 100/100. They each have one person from the other company ride in their company's ambulance. The explanation I received was since a medic from the other company was riding along in the ambulance I took, they now can both charge me. Again, they didn't split the fee. They each charged me fully. It's almost a brilliant scheme, but also absolutely unethical and ridiculous, and I can't fathom how this is even legal. On a side note, they didn't even treat me on the ride. I'm looking at you here, ambulance companies. Giving your employees just few enough hours that they don't qualify as a full-time employee, so you don't have to pay them benefits. I worked at Walmart in high school. There were older adults who worked tons of overtime. Really out their heart into the company. How were they rewarded? At the end of the pay period, they had shifts cancelled to keep them under 40 hours. Such a garbage company. You can bet when I witnessed people shoplifting I looked the other way. Fuck that company. And then passive aggressively bully them so that they conform to the schedule you want and leave them negotiating with their other manager at their other job so they can make enough to live. Meanwhile upper management is clogged with retirement refusal and your manager doesn't want to lose because you're actually trying, because you want to be promoted eventually, so once in a while you get to line about watching you for upcoming opportunities which are always filled via nepotism. And what can you do? You just sit there and take it and keep clocking in because you need a paycheck, work all fucking day, make no money and go nowhere for people who will never ever have your interests in the neighborhood of their heart. Loyalty is punished by laying the most work on the most productive, while overlooking these workers for promotions. If you're a great worker, they give you the shit jobs because you don't bitch and moan. I don't know about unethical as fuck, but going through the motions of pretending to entertain outside candidates when you've already decided on who internally will get the job wastes everyone's time. Sometimes it's company policy to post and interview for all positions, especially within a union setting. It's extremely frustrating because I've been dragged through a good half dozen interviews callbacks when they already had someone lined up, usually someone's relative. Purposefully giving part-time employees erratic schedules so they can't take on a second job. Lol, I worked at a restaurant that did this, so my co-workers and I made our own schedules and traded shifts every week to keep it consistent. Manager couldn't do shit about it because we were allowed to trade shifts, and changing that policy would make half the place quit. Dang. Never even thought about this. I always wondered why it was so hard to give people normal, set schedules. This opens my eyes. Chronically and purposely understaffing. Looking at you, retail and assisted living companies. The staff who take care of our aging citizens are being treated like dirt. I worked as a fraud investigator at a bank. We have rules and laws that we have to abide by, or the company got fined. I had a higher up, probably second or third tier from CEO, tell us explicitly that there are no exceptions to the rules except for our more affluent customers. That's why I hate management, they lie. Oh, next year you guys will have the holidays off. I'm still working every holiday. You can't use your cell phones because it's a security issue. A security guard will escort anyone out that uses their phone. Same manager walks by on their cell phone an hour later. Raising prices before putting items on sale. Looking at you, Coles. Firing someone the moment you find out they're looking for another job. This is something I'm actually quite impressed with my current workplace. They know I'm actively looking for a job, but they're still sending me to trainings so I can use that in future employment opportunities. Not paying invoices until you've been chased multiple times. As standard policy. Not telling employees that the company or division has a planned day to shut down, then letting them go the day of. This happens everywhere from major mega corporations to mom and pop restaurants. There are reasons as to why, given that there's still money to be made up until the last minute and you don't want your employees to slack off. And while obviously it's devastating to the employees who get laid off, It can also be pretty bad to the employees not getting laid off but have to be told ahead of time and can't say anything. Larger companies that kill competition innovation by buying out smaller companies just to stop what the smaller company is doing, or even keep lobbying the government to create barriers, restrictions for entry. Favoritism. Promoting people into positions who have no business being there. Treating people bad to make them quit the job because you don't have the balls to fire them, or you are afraid that the word your company can fire someone anytime will spread and you will lose control. The multitudes of ways in which work-life bleeds into personal life, and you're expected to just accept that, and worse, actively embrace it, else you're perceived as someone who doesn't want to get ahead or otherwise isn't as valued as the person who does. The company will always try and get more free time from you, but far less than always, bordering on never, actually give you back what that extra time costs. Firing a manager then dumping their responsibilities on a regular worker with no pay raise. Unpaid internships. Selling user data. I hate how convoluted it is to cancel a gym membership in most places. It's super shady. Sometimes you have to mail a letter to the company's headquarters. Canceling at the gym isn't enough. Lots of people have gotten bills months later even though they were told over and over it was complete. Unpaid internships are supposed to be on-site learning opportunities but are often just slave labor. Unpaid overtime. More colloquially referred to as being on salary. My old salaried position requires copious amounts of overtime. In the end, my hourly wage was less than the people I was supervising. Firing people for medical issues. I don't know about all the states etc. If anyone knows, please illuminate. A co-worker of mine took a long medical leave for a spinal issue she was having with her neck. I believe she had surgery and then was on leave for a few weeks. Doc recommended not working more than 4 hours a day. When she came back with that news to HR, they fired her on the spot. I thought medical issues would be a discriminatory termination, but apparently they can just let you go if the state is at will. Sorry you had this invasive surgery that cost you a fortune, but you don't have a job anymore, see ya. Giving people an hour below what is considered full-time so they don't need benefits. And also apparently changing people's time cards frequently. Every job I've had has done that, and at the expense of my hour's pay too. Insider trading. Nepotism. The general practice of being able to cut you loose with zero notice, but if an employee decides to leave, they need 2 weeks notice, and even then, companies will raise a stink. Fine print. I always read it because all the bad stuff is there, but so many don't know too. When I worked part-time at Sam's Club, the manager was intentionally cutting our hours back to take away from our bonus and add to his at the end of the year.